Hello, this is manic.mercurian with your birth chart reading. This reading will be for Monday, August 26th, 1991 at 9:04 p.m. in Tacoma, Washington, my home state, although I'm from a little farther north than where you're from. Happy late birthday, by the way, as well. So this means that you have Sun in Virgo with Moon in Pisces and Aries rising. And the first thing that I noticed about this chart was really a couple things. You have a lot more going on in fire and water signs than I think the typical kind of Virgo sun does. Usually we all have Mercury in the same sign as our sun. But you actually don't have Mercury in Virgo. You have it back in Leo. And you have a fair amount of fire placements. Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus are all conjunct around 24, 26 degrees Leo. And then you've got that Aries rising as well. So definitely a lot of fire going on. A lot of passion, excitement, enthusiasm, directness, boldness, confidence. You may not always feel that though, because that's blended in with some earth and water placements, much heavier energies. And also 2 out of 3 of your fire planets are retrograde, Mercury and Venus. So you still have that warmth and charisma and directness. It's just that the way you think and communicate and the way you relate to your kind of romantic experiences, all of those things are kind of slowed down and internalized because Mercury and Venus are retrograde for you. That's very rare to have both of those retrograde. You also have a fair amount of water energy as well, though, with Moon in Pisces and South Node in Cancer as well. So those are just 2 main placements, personal placements. I also see Pluto and Scorpio as well. But South Node and the Moon, I would pay particular attention to. This means that it just means, all of it comes together to mean that you're much more passionate and maybe more emotional than the typical Virgo sun. So you can kind of do it all. You can be analytical like a typical Virgo, but you can also be emotional, spirited, intuitive, passionate, etc. You're actually born maybe about a day and a half after a full moon. A full moon had just occurred in Pisces. Yeah, it looks like it was just in the first couple degrees of Pisces, maybe even the last couple degrees of Aquarius. I'm not exactly sure. Just a couple days before you're born. So you were born still within, the vicinity of a full moon. The moon would have appeared very bright in the sky when you were born. It would have been just rising. And so this means that you're balancing a huge polarity here. You're balancing Virgo with Pisces. These signs are, exactly opposite. So you're balancing very different themes, and that's going to be very difficult, especially early in life. Things will get gradually easier for you as you learn to balance these extremes within your own personality. Part of what makes this difficult as well is that with Sun in Virgo and Moon in Pisces, these are both mutable signs. So this means that the way I put it is, if you just had one mutable sign on its own, there's a huge variety, there's a huge range within that one mutable placement, such as, Sun and Virgo is what I was thinking of. But when you take one of those and combine it with a completely other mutable placement, Sun and Virgo with Moon and Pisces, each of that on its own has so much range and so much potential for so many different things. They're adaptable placements. So when you combine multiple of those, you may feel very scattered at times. You may feel like you can go in any direction. That's kind of one of your main strengths as well as challenges, is that you are so adaptable. You can kind of do anything. You can go anywhere. You can be anything to anyone. So how do you decide, how do you find that kind of structure? You may be actually a little bit less structured than, the quote unquote typical Virgo, again, because of your moon in Pisces. So you are flexible, I did notice as well, moon is in the 12th house. That would indicate that you have psychic abilities that you inherit from your mother's side of the family. I think this is especially true because, with Moon is not only in 12th house, it's also in Pisces, and then plus South Node in Cancer. These are all very intuitive placements. It's showing that you are like psychically aware somehow. Maybe you are aware when it comes to like relations with family and those that are close to you. You may be very aware, kind of just in general too. You just get kind of psychic hunches and little intuitions, little feelings. I think this is really powerful because when you combine that with Sun and Virgo, again, you can kind of do it all. You can be very psychic and intuitive, but you can also be very, logical, practical, analytical, etc. So that is a huge it's a huge blessing to have that potential that comes from all these different kinds of awarenesses and intelligences. But it's also a huge burden as well. It's a huge challenge for you to navigate all of this. You're constantly picking up so much information and so many different vibes and feelings. You're kind of soaking everything up like a sponge. So that's gonna be very difficult. Again, especially early in life. I think as you get older and mature, you'll learn to kind of sit with, your own psychic awareness, your own intelligence, and you'll learn, I don't know, maybe to have boundaries, I guess. That might be something that you struggle with when you are a little bit younger. Um, what else? Moon in 12th house indicates that you, especially at a young age, you may really be much more comfortable alone. You may be a little bit reclusive. Part of you just enjoys experiencing the world sort of vicariously, like through your imagination, through, I don't know, like you may be very able to have really deep like dreams or deep meditation, things like that, like really just to go off on your own in your own little world. It, to some extent, you're always kind of in your own world, I think. You're always caught up in your own sort of thoughts and feelings, and it's sort of a contradiction. You're so open to the world and so constantly experiencing everything on such a deep level, and yet at the same time you're so, I don't want to say self-involved, but just like involved in your own mind and your own feelings and thoughts, etc. Like you think and feel so deeply that can sort of consume you, I think, and that can drive you crazy. The Virgo Pisces axis, which is again very relevant in your chart. The Virgo Pisces axis has a lot to do not only with physical health but also mental health, and so you undoubtedly in this lifetime you will experience moments where you are extremely clear-minded and very psychic, and you can see everything, and I hate to say it, but it's likely that you'll experience some really dark depths as well. Again, just having so many mutable placements or such major placements in your chart, I should say, that in mutable signs, it just indicates that you have a super broad range. Early in life, you may be so open to new experiences that you kind of just experience everything and anything. At a young age, it's sort of like trial and error. You try this lifestyle, try that lifestyle. You're open to kind of any person, any idea. Um, you know, I could see you maybe being a little bit more shy or introverted, and I think that would actually be maybe kind of like a safety survival mechanism, because it's to protect your openness. You have this really wide kind of openness about you, I think. So what I notice is when you have a lot of mutable placements like that, you'll start out life maybe a little bit more naive or innocent than most. These are kind of late bloomer placements. Because you are so open, you will experience, a lot of highs and lows, a lot of adventures and misadventures. But the beauty of that is that with time, those experiences, all the variety of experience that you will undoubtedly have, that experience will turn into knowledge. That knowledge will turn into wisdom. So what I find is, while you are likely maybe a little bit more naive early in life, you will likely be you'll make for a very wise older person, if that makes sense. So naive young person, but very wise old person, because you have all those experiences, and you're probably very much on your way already. You've probably already gained a lot of wisdom from all that. A different way of approaching these heavy mutable placements, sun and moon and mutable signs, it's sort of like you can see things from all different angles, all different sides, if that makes sense. So yeah, that can be great when it comes to understanding other perspectives, learning new information. That can be great for having really deep understandings of things, but it can also be difficult because early in life you may be easily manipulated. Because you can see every aspect of things, how can you judge if someone is telling the truth or not? They could be telling the truth, they might not be. At the end of the day, we never know. You know what I mean? And that's true, but it may take you time to observe those patterns, I guess you could say. because I think your learning is very sort of pattern oriented, pattern based. If something just happened once, there's no way to interpret it. You're just so aware of the nuance of the world and how complex the world is. You're constantly learning, and so I think that means that you are naturally very aware of what you don't know. It's like you're constantly sort of speculating. You're constantly assessing what can't be assessed, or like making room. I don't know how to put that into words, but I don't know. I don't know how else to say that. What else? We could look at your Leo placements. It is really interesting having 3 placements conjunct like that. I did also notice your 10th house Capricorn is very packed for you. We'll talk about that soon. But Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter all conjunct is especially powerful. Having Venus and Jupiter, they are exact, not only to the same degree, to 26 degrees Leo, but even the fraction of a degree is almost exactly the same as well. So they are extremely tightly conjunct. And Venus and Jupiter are both the main, positive planets in astrology. They're the most auspicious. So having them both conjunct at 26 degrees Leo, that means that part of Leo is very auspicious for you. So you may have really beautiful connections with people who have placements at the end of Leo. Or even, let's see, that would be people that were born about a week before you. They would have Sun conjunct your Venus and Jupiter. So I don't know if you know anyone born in kind of like mid-August, like August 19th. But that may be a very powerful day for you as well, just experiencing around August 19th, because every day, give or take a day, transiting Sun will cross over your Jupiter and Venus. So that could be very powerful. But anyway, so I think I use equal houses, by the way. So with the equal houses, you have Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and the Sun all in the 5th house. So that shows that you're very much focused on creativity. You are all about expression. You want to express yourself through your creativity. I don't know what you do. I'm sure there must be something creative or artistic that you do. That's actually a huge key point too. Combining Moon in 12th house Pisces with Sun in Virgo, and then 4 planets in the 5th house, I could see you being extremely creative. You would be excellent when it comes to taking something fantastical and then merging it with reality. So, some of my favorite movie directors actually have Sun in Virgo with Moon in Pisces, or vice versa, like Tom Ford, for example. Or even there's a lot of musicians that have placements like that, like Michael Jackson. Really any kind of like creative or artistic endeavors are, I think, can be really beautiful when you combine, you are a natural manifestation of combining fantasy with reality, Pisces with Virgo, and Leo as well. It's a lot of creative energy. So you'd be a master at, having a lot of, unbridled creativity and just, openness to new ideas, and let's make it big, let's do something fantastical. But you also have that Virgo side of being very analytical, very scrupulous. I don't know if that's the word. Very detail oriented. Does this actually make sense? Can we like fact check everything, and can we make it real? Can we make it believable? I feel like that's a really useful attitude to have when making a movie, but even making an art piece as well. Having the balance of, the creativity, the, openness and optimism to create something really beautiful, but also that analytical side to refine it and, add those like little details, or, to make sure it's realistic, whatever it is. I don't know. You have both. You have that, creativity that's more passionate and emotional, and you have that analytical side as well. But yeah, with those 4 planets in the 5th house, it may be very vital for you to express yourself through creativity, because it's kind of interesting. On the one hand, I could see you being an expert communicator. You have Sun in Virgo, which suggests, excellent writing ability, or excellent, I don't know, maybe speaking as well. But because Mercury is retrograde in the 5th house, and with Venus retrograde as well, and with Moon in the 12th house, like all of these are very reclusive kind of placements. So I think while you do very much want to communicate, I think sometimes it can be difficult for you to do so. Mercury retrograde and even Venus retrograde as well to some extent, they both suggest that you are just very internal. You're a very internal person. You are very psychic, intuitive, and you think in a way that's very different from other people. So it's really interesting. While I think you are probably very intelligent, it wouldn't surprise me if you struggled in school, because it's just that you have your own way of doing things. You have your own way of learning things. Like sometimes you just know the answer, and you can't explain your work. You can't show your work because there was no work. Sometimes things just come to you. So that could be difficult, I think, academically. You can be very analytical, but you also have this other side to you that is less easy to explain. What else? But yeah, Mercury retrograde, it just shows that you have a unique way of learning, thinking, and communicating. You may be open to very unique ideas. So that placement simultaneously, to me, shows an increased chance of learning disabilities or speech impediments, but it also increases the chances of you being a genius, because learning and thinking and communicating in your own way, in a unique way, that is difficult because you may not be understood by others, but that's also advantageous because you have something unique to offer. You have a unique gift, a unique perspective. You see things in a different way. You have information that others aren't privy to. You see patterns that other people don't see. So all of this is simultaneously very challenging and isolating, but also extremely useful. And, it's something special that you have to kind of offer the world. But my point was, what I was eventually getting to was, I think something that probably has really helped you and can continue to help you is expressing yourself through art, through creativity, making something that is an expression of yourself. So fifth house is kind of the energy. It's the energy of children for sure. But if you think about it, children are like, through our own kind of playful, creative energy, I guess you could say we create children in a way. And then they are an expression of ourselves. They are kind of a reflection of us, or the same could be said about like, a piece of art or anything that we create, that we kind of put our soul into. A little bit of our soul is in that thing, and then it is an expression of us, if that makes sense. So that's the energy that we're talking about here. That's something that may be very relevant for you and very powerful for you. Can you create something? Create a piece of artwork? I don't know. It could even be something you do for work. Are you able to create something that you truly, invest your ego, your soul, your heart into, your mind even? I think that might be really interesting. When we get to the career and reputation part of this reading, that might be something worthwhile for you. But yeah, I would speculate you need to express yourself through your creativity in order to feel sane or to feel heard. And I just can't see how you do that. I can't see if it's through art or writing or like acting, or what else could be, even like sports. I guess you could say like some kind of physical activity. Could be, I don't know, like I guess you could say that's like a form of expression, or like an energetic release. I don't know, something. But yeah, I would think that there's something there for you that you'd probably become very good at, because it's serving a function for you emotionally. I think I'll hold off on interpreting the 10th house placements until later. I like to keep these readings compartmentalized for your convenience into chapters. Let's talk about your challenges. We'll talk about your past life themes and how that relates to challenges and potential for you in this life. And we'll also talk about your upbringing as well. So with South Node and 4th house Cancer, that suggests that in a past life you were very much focused on the more kind of emotional and spiritual side of things rather than on the physical or mundane, I guess you could say. You were someone that was very nurturing. You may have been kind of, I don't know, hidden away from the public. You were someone who very much was more focused on like domestic situations, like, I don't know, being some kind of caretaker, mother, father, maybe focusing on family. Or I could even see you, a lot of societies in our history have had some kind of shaman. I could see you being a sort of shaman figure, like someone who was wise and, had all the answers, and, someone that other people could go to for support and, guidance. You would be a master at all things having to do with, life and emotion and wisdom. And, that would extend as well into the non physical. You would be a master of the non physical, of spiritual matters. What else? I don't know if I'd say religious necessarily. I'm more thinking spiritual. Like, it's very private. It's very, focused on home and family. It's fourth house Cancer, right? So that's kind of what I see. I don't know if that resonates for you. I wish I could see more information on things like that. But coming into this life, it means that you still resonate with those energies. It's much more innate or natural for you to deal with matters that are more like emotional or spiritual in nature. Like, you are a master at kind of your own subconscious, I think. I did want to mention Moon in the 12th house indicates that at a young age, you felt that you couldn't express emotion at all in this lifetime. And the reasons for that, I don't know what the reason was. What I find reading charts is that usually it's one of a couple different situations. Either you were in a very like boisterous family where there were a lot of strong personalities, so you felt it was easier to just kind of go along with what everyone else was saying and feeling and thinking and doing. So you kind of suppressed your own emotion because it was easier that way. Or there may have been other situations of like heavy trauma, or, I've heard all different kinds of situations. But whatever it was, you believed that, for one reason or another, it was easier, simpler, more advantageous to just shut down emotionally, basically. So basically what happened was, you may have felt like you didn't have any feeling or any kind of core personality. And it's not that you didn't have those things. It's just that you suppressed them. You pushed them down into your subconscious at a young age. So this becomes kind of a late bloomer placement. It's more challenging early on. 12th house is actually ruled by Saturn. So Saturn kind of rules your moon in a way. So you're a late bloomer at a young age. It's difficult to even, it's a little bit complicated. Like, on the one hand, you've kind of always been a deep person and an intelligent person, but on the other hand, at a young age, you may have felt kind of emotionally stunted because you suppressed those emotions. So it takes time. It took time for you. People take anywhere from their late teens or maybe their 20s, when they have a placement like this, to kind of become aware of their own emotions. But what happens is, you suppress those emotions, you push them down, but it's kind of like pushing a cork underwater. It's only a matter of time before that part of your personality comes back up to the surface. And that's where life can get a lot more fun and powerful for you. Because, in your late teens, your 20s, even your early 30s, those emotions have kind of risen back up to the surface. And that's where, because that part of you was subconscious and now it's conscious, you have kind of I was going to say a mirror, but that's not. You have like a doorway to your own subconscious. You have the potential for extremely deep self-awareness because of having gone through that whole experience. And that also allows you not only to see deeply within yourself, but to see deeply within other people as well. You're probably very excellent at reading other people, much better than they are at reading you, if that makes sense. Like, you are kind of an alien to other people. They don't understand you. It's because you understand that life is multifaceted. People are multifaceted. Everyone has these different sides to them, but not everyone is aware of that. So you just take in things on a much deeper level. You understand things very deeply, much deeply than other people do. So other people meet you and they just see one side of you and they think that that's all that there is. They don't understand that there's a much more complex, kind of deeper picture there, if that makes sense. Um, so anyway, I guess that's kind of relevant to your whole sort of childhood and upbringing and things like that. But I guess why I started talking about that was combining that whole, moon and 12th house Pisces, combining that with South Node and Cancer. It all adds up to suggest that I think your past is much more, I don't know, you in past lives you're much more focused on the emotional and the spiritual. So coming into this life, that's going to be your kind of comfort zone. You understand your own emotion, you understand the emotions of other people. You understand the kind of subconscious and the dream world, I guess you could say, like ethereal things, subjects that are very complex or otherworldly. Like you may be very interested in paranormal phenomena, or I don't know, things having to do with like aliens or spirits. I don't know. I would speculate that there's at least one area in those, kinds of things that you are attracted to, or maybe you're drawn to all of it, or conspiracy theories, like mysteries, all of that stuff. I would speculate would be right up your alley. You're drawn to things that are weird, things that other people shy away from because it's too weird, or I don't understand that, it's too complicated. That would be, that would draw you in like a magnet. You love things that are complicated or mysterious or surprising. So what's going to be more difficult is symbolized by the North Node, which is in 10th house Capricorn. So, can you take all of that deep intelligence and wisdom and bring it to the world? Because what I'm saying is that you're much more comfortable being on your own in your like private controlled space. Maybe being maybe being in more familiar situations, maybe at home with family. Sorry. What's interesting though is you have North Node conjunct Neptune, so maybe it's about taking that spirituality, taking that kind of weird energy, for lack of a better word, and bringing it to the public. Don't shy away. You're going to want to shy away and just kind of run off on your own and kind of, fall into escapism and be in your own world. And that's fine. That's natural to some extent. We all need a little bit of that. But can you also bring that energy to other people? You have something really unique and very deep. You have this deep kind of warmth to you that I think other people need. And it's not just warmth, it's intelligence, it's wisdom. And I'm not saying you necessarily have to go out and like shout from the rooftops or like go out and like teach everybody. I think it's more about just, just being you, just containing all your energy the way it is, and just being around other people, just being in public in general. Because I do believe, we have sort of osmosis, like we are made of mostly water. We are energy. We kind of soak up, energies and information from each other. There's even experiments that support that as well. So yeah, maybe part of this is doing something very meaningful with others, and maybe part of it is just being there in public, being around other people, just and being yourself. But this is going to be, very challenging, especially early in life. This will get easier for you over time because that's generally how the nodal axis works. It's much easier, much more comfortable to just dwell on our south node. So for you, fourth house Cancer, to be, nurturing, to be emotional, to be in your own world, to stay at home, all of that's very natural for you. That's very innate. You've got that down. It's more difficult for you to go out into 10th house Capricorn, go out in the world, in society. You're very aware that, the public world is not safe, so you're kind of on your guard there. You have, midheaven and Capricorn. So you may come across a little bit serious or rigid in public, but that's okay. Just be yourself. And I think as you get more comfortable with that, you will kind of present a very, very strange but also useful energy for other people. This is especially true because North Node is not only conjunct Neptune, it's actually more tightly conjunct Lilith. So that's showing. I think part of you has a desire for everything to be controlled and everything to be familiar. Like, I want to always know what to expect, if that makes sense. Like, especially on a physical level. Hopefully, you're following me. Like, um, emotionally, I think you're much more open to, things are unpredictable or inexplainable, unexplainable. But physically, like in the physical world, like for example, if you go to like Walmart or something, where it's very chaotic and like there's all these different things happening, that could be very kind of alarming for you. So in other words, I think you're much, it's easier for you to readily embrace chaos or unpredictability or mystery on an emotional or internal level rather than a mundane physical, like real world level. Um, but with North Node conjunct Lilith, to me it's showing, just being open to the craziness, the wild energy, the unexplained, the the dysfunction of reality, of other people, of society, of work, whatever you do for work, of just being in public, I guess. That's all going to be very scary for you early on, but it's something that's necessary and it's something that you may really thrive with later in life. Let's actually talk more about your challenges. So speaking about all that, you have Saturn at 1 degree Aquarius. You're part of this sort of Aquarius subgeneration of people born 1991, 92, 93. So so what happens when you have Saturn in an air sign like Aquarius? It means that your subgeneration isn't comfortable with other people, especially early in life, like your first 30 years in particular. You may have really not been comfortable with other people, and that is something I kind of see with the rest of your chart as well. I already mentioned that there are indicators that you may be a little bit more shy or reclusive, but combining that with Saturn in 10th house Aquarius, for one, that shows that many of your greatest challenges will be in the limelight, in public, at work, etc. But also it just shows that at a young age you really didn't know where you fit in. And I guess you could say that that's true about everyone to some extent, but especially you. You really didn't know your role in society. You didn't know what to do in public or who to be. And you may have really not liked groups of people. Like many of us that have Saturn in Aquarius don't like groups of people. We either have social anxiety, or we just don't like other people, or we don't know how to interact with people. We can be socially awkward. But I think this is especially true for you because you have Saturn in 10th house Aquarius. So it's very visible. It's really applying to your public life more than anything. I also noticed that you actually have no air planets at all other than Saturn in Aquarius. So it may be difficult for you to open up socially. I think part of that is that, when you lack air in a chart, the air element makes things silly. It makes things kind of detached. Like, you don't have to take everything so seriously when you have a lot of air planets. When you have no air planets other than Saturn, that indicates that I think part of your difficulty with people is that you take everything so seriously. And that's not entirely a bad thing. I think that's also the beauty of your personality, that you take everything so seriously. You're so sincere and poignant. What does that even mean? That word just popped in my head. Poignant, evoking a keen sense of sadness or regret. Maybe that's the word I was looking for. Poignant. Okay, that's not exactly the direction I was thinking, but just that maybe that's part of it too. Like, you may have a deep kind of melancholy about you, but part of you, like anything you do or say, your ego is really in it. Your soul, you're very soulful. Like, you're very sincere is a good word for it, and that's all excellent. That's beautiful. I think others may really enjoy that about you, and that may be part of the beauty of how you think and communicate. But at the same time, viewing everything, I think you put pressure on yourself. Like, you take every interaction so seriously. I don't know. I feel like it'd be exhausting constantly putting so much of yourself into every um, I don't know, every expression, every moment. There's nothing wrong with that. It's really beautiful, and I'm not disencouraging that. But at the same time, I think that can be difficult for you. That can be, it can, you expect a lot of yourself. You know, you are, it's very demanding, I guess you could say. Uh, so anyway, so I think especially at a young age, social interactions are going to be very difficult for you. It's like you're on a kind of different vibration than everyone else. Um, so, so this will take time, you know. Um, Saturn, anything having to do with Saturn and astrology, it just takes time. It's the hardest part generally comes to us first. So early in life is going to be the most difficult for you socially. Gradually, you'll learn to open up and to interact with others, and you'll gradually learn kind of your role in society. And I think that will help a lot. And I think you've already probably made a lot of progress in those areas. Usually we tend to have a lot of progress in those areas around our Saturn return. So age 28, 29, 30, which you have sort of just gone through a few years ago. So anyway, so I'm sure you've made a lot of strides when it comes to learning your place in the world and your role that you're meant to play or that you want to play. Let's see, challenges, potential. Oh, I did want to mention with North Node in 10th house Capricorn, that really shows the potential of you being a leader. Even Saturn in Aquarius shows the potential of being a leader as well. Saturn in Aquarius suggests at a young age really not being comfortable with groups and preferring to just isolate or go on your own. But at a later age, when you get a little bit older, you may actually be a master at being a leader of a group. Leading your own kind of group to some extent, if that makes sense. Like I'm an example. I have Saturn in Aquarius. That's kind of what I'm doing with this channel. You may do that in your own way. You may be the leader of your workplace, or leading others in this way or that way. I'm not sure exactly. But combining that, Aquarius Saturn with North Node in 10th house Capricorn, all of that really indicates huge potential for you at being a leader, leading other people. And because North Node is conjunct Lilith and to a lesser extent Neptune, well, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I do see that you're meant to lead in a really unique, really kind of wild sort of way. I think your potential is to provide a new sort of structure, to provide some kind of new rules or regulation, but in a completely wild way, completely unique way. This is something that you're really going to do all on your own. And yeah, that's about as much as I see there. Having sun and moon in opposite signs suggests that your parents were very different from one another. They had different parenting styles, different expectations for you, and they may have not always gotten along. They were just such different energies from one another. Having moon in 12th house indicates your mother, like I said earlier, your mother's side of the family in general may have a kind of clairvoyance, psychic abilities, some kind of deep intelligence about them. And you have that as well. You've kind of inherited that. I also think your mother would be much closer to you growing up than your father would. Saturn retrograde indicates an absent father. You do have Saturn in domicile and in the 10th house, though. So you have mixed messages when it comes to some indicators showing an absent father, some indicators showing a very present father. And that's not entirely unusual. There's many different situations where that could be the case. Maybe your father was involved in your life, but he just worked a lot. Maybe he was present for part of your life, but gone for a different part. There's all different kinds of situations. So I think it was more of a mix for you. It wasn't so black and white. And I would also say, with Sun in the 5th house, almost in the 6th house, Sun is closer to the descendant, which suggests a disconnect between you and your father. Your father just may not entirely understand you, or I don't know, maybe approve of you. You may be different than what he expected from you, I guess. So there's some kind of misunderstanding or disconnect there. looking at what you were like as a kid, I really look to South Node and the IC, and for you, both of those placements are in Cancer. So that would suggest that at a young age, you were like the sign Cancer. So you may have been very emotional, very sensitive, also very psychic, very imaginative as a kid, very close with your mother. What else? You may have been. It may have been a combination of being very shy, very reclusive, but you may have also made friends very easily. Because I've noticed that with these Cancer placements, there's at least how I've experienced them, but I think others experience this as well. You can really go far in both directions socially with Cancer, like being very reclusive, very isolated, but also connecting with others very readily. So that's how I see you as a kid, being very shy, very introverted, but also connecting with other people really easily. But you may have had, a lot of time connecting with others and making friends, but a lot of time very isolated and alone as well. But I think being so isolated and alone, that's kind of, I don't know. I've been thinking about this lately. I think that's part of what opens our psychic abilities. Um, so so yeah, very psychic, very intuitive child, very emotional, sensitive. Yeah, that's pretty much what I see there. Let's talk about your career and your reputation a little bit. So this looks particularly interesting for you because you have a very packed 10th house. 10th house has to do with your career and reputation. Midheaven also has to do with your career and reputation. And for you, much of that is centered around the sign of Capricorn. So with Midheaven and Capricorn, you, again, like I touched on earlier, you view the world as a chaotic and unpredictable and dangerous place, which it is. I mean, that's not wrong. But that just means that you may come across a little guarded in public or at work. But that is not entirely a bad thing. I actually think Midheaven is more suited for Capricorn than any other sign because you come across serious in public. You come across experienced. You come across like you know what you're talking about. You come across authoritative, even without really trying to. You have this very like matter of fact, business like, very, I don't know, direct and kind of sober personality that is there in public. And it's just interesting how this the way we are in public may or may not fit how we feel most of the time, like our core personality. You do have Sun and Mars and Virgo, so on some level you are very practical, orderly. You probably have excellent work ethic. So to some extent that kind of lines up with how you are in public. I did notice though, so let's go through all these placements here. So Uranus conjunct Midheaven, that means that you are very unique and original with your career and reputation. Like you're meant to conjure up something completely new. Like you stir about epiphanies for people in public, in your workplace, etc., even online as well. You're kind of stirring the pot. I don't think you mean to. Looking at the rest of your chart, I think you would, like I said earlier, I think you would kind of try to shy away from getting too much attention, or I think you in general you would be very adaptable. You want to just go with the flow of whatever's already happening. But there's something about you though that stirs things. It's not that you mean to. It's not that you're really even doing anything or meaning to do anything. Just your energy, just your aura and your presence are revolutionary, I guess you could say. That may be a little bit dramatic, but part of you are meant to kind of revolutionize things in your field. I don't know what your field is. I can't see that. But again, I did want to touch on, you have so much creative potential, and it may be something that's more private for you though. As much as I would love, I can see your creative abilities, and as much as part of me would love to, let's make a career out of that. Why not? That's something that you have your passion and your soul into. I would like that for that to be the case, but I could see how that may not be the case though, because your creativity is in a completely different part of your chart than your career is. So you may prefer keeping those creative pursuits private, or maybe it's more of a side gig for you, or maybe it's not about monetary gain at all and it's something you do for pleasure. I can definitely understand that myself, and maybe you'll relate that, if you take a kind of creative endeavor and make it for profit, I think we can run the risk of sacrificing that creativity because we can't do what we truly want to do anymore. We've lost that sovereignty. We have to serve, someone else or something. I think that could make it more mundane, maybe. I don't know. That's just how I felt. So that's kind of what your chart reminds me of. Maybe you'll prefer to keep your creativity private so that it's truly yours. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not saying you can't do something creative for work. I'm just saying I could. Your chart suggests to me that you naturally keep those things compartmentalized. But anyway, so having Uranus conjunct Midheaven, having Neptune and Uranus in the 10th house, that means that you have a very unique, very kind of otherworldly presence at work. So it's a lot to live up to. I think you may make other people uncomfortable, and that in turn may make you uncomfortable. But I would say, I think just accept it, just go with it. Other people are not going to understand you at work. They may fear you and resent you and just completely misunderstand you because even though you feel like you're just minding your own business and you want to adapt, you don't come across that way. You come across like you're in charge. You come across like you're the boss. And you come across like you're the boss in a very alien and foreign way. So that I think that would be very difficult to live up to. Like I said, that would be difficult when you're younger. But as you learn, as you get older and wiser and you learn to kind of, you know what I'm picturing? I'm picturing like a big suit with like big shoes, and at a younger age, it's awkward. It's an awkward fit. It doesn't really fit. But as you sort of like grow and mature, you'll naturally, that the clothes will fit you much better. I'm actually getting a really vivid image, like a pinstripe suit, like black and purple. I don't know if that has any significance to you or if that's just kind of a random image to fit this analogy. But yeah, I'm picturing this like dark suit that you would fit much better in your later years, if that makes sense. So don't think that, if you have a really awkward or difficult experience at a young age with your public life and professional life, I don't think that's how it will always be. You will slowly and very gradually grow to fit what really is a very large and like very effective, there's huge potential with these placements, I guess is what I'm saying. Part of it, again, I mentioned earlier, Saturn is in the 10th house, so it's challenging. Having Midheaven in Capricorn in general, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. It's challenging. It takes time to grow. So yeah, but huge potential here. You have the potential to be a kind of revolutionary, leading things in a new way, bringing some kind of new structure, a new order, I guess you could say, a new vision. I could see you doing something spiritual, like being some kind of spiritual leader, some kind of teacher, like professor kind of figure. And having Lilith and North Node, I think this is exciting. It's something strange. It's something that, others are not going to understand. You will not understand at a young age. But you can be a really effective leader, leading a group of people. I don't know in what. So in something spiritual, in something unique to you. It's really all about what you want. Because Capricorn's a very stubborn placement. It's very individualistic. So with your career and reputation, you're not going to want to be told what to do. You want to just do your own thing. So there's something really beautiful and very creative and unique that I think will emerge, but it's hard for me to see what that is because it's so personal to you. It's a new idea, a new way of doing things, new thought process, I don't know, whatever your field is. Maybe it's a new way of doing that thing or creating that product or performing that service. I don't know. Those are just some ideas, but maybe it could be multiple things too. Like you have the energy of like an inventor, So I'm not literally saying you have to be an inventor. I'm just saying, kind of use that as a metaphor, I guess you could say. What are you inventing? What are you changing? But I'm excited for you. I think that's very beautiful. I wish I could give you more specifics, but that's about as much as I can see. So lastly, let's talk about your romantic compatibility. I have a feeling this is going to be fun. I always have fun in this part of the reading, but I think yours in particular might be especially fun. So, yeah, we'll talk about what kind of person you're attracted to. We'll go through all the signs and see what zodiac signs you have different kinds of dynamics with. And I'll talk about the sort of ideal relationship for you as well, how I see all that playing out. So, really, for much of this, I look to Venus, Mars, and the descendant. And, all three of these placements show what you're attracted to in kind of different ways. You have Venus in Leo, Mars in Virgo, with descendant in Libra. So, they're all kind of lined up in these three late summer, early fall signs. So let's talk about Mars first, because I actually believe Mars is the least important of the three. Mars, mostly in this context, Mars shows what you're attracted to, like sexually. It shows sexual chemistry. With Mars and Virgo, it shows that you're a hard worker. You may be very particular when it comes to being in organized environments. Like cluttered or disorganized environments or inefficient environments may really kind of piss you off, if that makes sense. That's what I've noticed with Mars and Virgo people. But that same placement means that you have excellent work ethic. You naturally break down large projects into smaller ones, and it's a very effective way of getting a lot done. But anyway, in terms of compatibility, Mars and Virgo suggest that your Mars is ruled by Mercury. So that means that you need someone intelligent. For you, you're one of those people that is, sapiosexual is a word for it. I've never liked that word, but it does come in handy for situations like this, because it basically means that you are attracted to intelligence. It's not good enough for you to have, like, if someone just has a hot body, like, that's fine, that's all well and good, but for you, you really need that intellectual connection as well. You want to know, like, what's going on in someone's mind. You want to know that they are intelligent. You want to have deep conversations and really learn someone on a deep level. Get to know someone on a deep level. My communication has been so bad these past few weeks, so I apologize. But with Mars and Virgo, yeah, you just need someone intelligent, someone down to earth, practical. Like, that is what's sexy for you. So it almost is a little bit contradictory. Like, for you, there's sexiness in the mundane. Someone who's just practical, knowledgeable, intelligent, that's hot for you. That's sexy. And someone may be very modest as well. So definitely Virgo may be a very attractive sign for you. You also have Sun in Virgo. So anyone with major Virgo placements, you may not only have great chemistry with, but you may relate to them a great deal as well. To some extent, the other earth signs may fit this too. There is a difference though. With Taurus and Capricorn, they are earth signs, so they will be practical, grounded. Any of these three earth signs will be very grounding, which is something that you may be attracted to. But Taurus and Capricorn are not nearly as intellectual and analytical as Virgo is. So looking at your other placements, I don't see you being as attracted to those other earth signs. Taurus and Capricorn are very practical, but they're more, I think they are practical from a more instinctual, more intuitive kind of side. They're actually more emotional than Virgo is. So I see you wanting someone more intellectual. So Virgo, I definitely like Virgo much better than Taurus or Capricorn for you. Taurus and Capricorn have some of what you're looking for, but they are lacking in other areas, I guess. With last thing I'll say about Mars in Virgo is that you may you may be attracted to someone that's a little bit complex as well. You can handle someone complicated. So Taurus and Capricorn are very simple, like straightforward. What you see is what you get. I think you may want someone a little bit more complex or multifaceted. Let's look at Venus. So Venus is very important with compatibility. I would say maybe it's the second most important compatibility placement, although Venus and the descendant are my top two. So Venus shows not only what you're attracted to, but also how you express yourself romantically. So Venus in Leo, it's a bit of a contradiction because Venus is retrograde, but it's also in Leo. So Venus retrograde would indicate that it takes you time to open up romantically. Not only time, like, early in life, you may have been late to kind of bloom when it comes to relationships and romantic experiences. But also just, when you're getting to know someone in a relationship, you may prefer to take your time getting to know someone That's what Venus in retrograde suggests. But at the same time, Venus in Leo suggests kind of the opposite. Venus in Leo would suggest that when you meet someone, you know very strongly how you feel about them, and you don't beat around the bush. You prefer to be very direct, very honest. You're very strong-willed. You're not going to change yourself for anyone. You have the philosophy of, I'm just going to be honest with how I feel, and if that matches up with them, then great. And if it doesn't, at least I'll know. You kind of, you put yourself out there. So I'm not really sure. I'm honestly not sure how. I'm going to be honest with you. Venus retrograde is a very rare placement. I believe only about 9% of the population, or maybe even less, are born with Venus retrograde. So I honestly, even though I've done many different chart readings, I'm not experienced with Venus retrograde enough to have an in-depth explanation of what Venus retrograde in Leo would be like for you. I know what Venus retrograde is all about, and I know what Venus in Leo is all about, but I'm not sure exactly how those two fit together. So I'm just kind of presenting them, these two different sides. I'm not sure how that works for you. Part of you wants to take the relationship very slow, and part of you wants to be very, gung-ho, very straightforward, very honest. So it's a bit of a mix somehow, I guess you could say. But I will say with Venus in Leo, you are going to be attracted to personalities that are more fiery, more direct, and fun-loving as well. You want to have fun with someone. You want to have a good time. You want to be silly, laugh. Humor is really important. Someone adventurous, someone upbeat, someone who views the glass half full. Basically, someone like Leo. It can literally be that simple. With Venus in Leo, you are attracted to Leo, and also you express yourself romantically like a Leo. All confident and fiery and warm and all that. So that being said, someone with major Leo placements may be very receptive to you. You may relate to them very well. This is also true because of your Aries rising and your Mercury in Leo, even your Jupiter in Leo. All of these placements show that you may really relate with Leo. Their fire, their warmth, their charisma may be very refreshing for you, because you want to have fun. They want to have fun too, and they're going to understand how you express yourself romantically. So yeah, definitely Leo is on the radar as well. Let's look to the other fire signs. So Sagittarius could be interesting because they are, they're another fire sign. They're warm, adventurous, direct, bold, kind of reminiscent of Leo. But then Sagittarius is also intellectual and analytical, kind of like Virgo. So they have sort of everything that you're looking for. Of course, compatibility is not this simple. Each person is a blend of different planets and signs, just like we're seeing with your chart right now. But if that weren't the case, and I only had to go off of these 12 signs, I would say Sagittarius might be one of my top picks for you, just because they're a little bit like Leo, but they're also like Virgo. They're fiery, like a fire sign, but also intellectual, like Virgo. They're an intellectual sign. So that could be interesting for you. Aries might be interesting as well. Aries has a lot in common with Leo. Very confident, very direct. You have Aries rising, so other Aries rising people in particular, you may really get along with very famously, because I'm not sure why. I've noticed a lot of couples that have the same rising. I think the reason why is because when you have the same ascendant, it's like you're on the same page all the time. You have the same approach to life, the same approach to situations in general. So even if the rest of your placements are very different, you're on the same page, kind of. So Aries rising might be very interesting for you. But when it comes to other placements in Aries, usually what I see is that the sign of the ascendant is what you're all about in the relationship. So ultimately, you are attracting the opposite. You are attracting Libra, which is where your descendant is. So let's talk about your descendant a little bit, because I think that's something that is overlooked in astrology, but it's a really great placement that indicates what you are compatible with and what you attract with partnerships and with other people. So because you have Aries rising, that means you have Libra descendant. The ascendant is the eastern horizon, descendant is the western horizon. For you, ascendant is Aries, descendant is Libra. So in a relationship, you are Aries. So I see you as being the initiator in the relationship. I see you as being maybe the slightly more dominant one, which might be interesting because I think in other areas in life you can be a little bit more shy, very humble, more receptive. But when it comes to relationships, that's where I actually see you as being a little bit more dominant. And this is true because of your Aries rising and your Leo Venus as well. You can be a little fiery. So what you're attracted to is someone who's actually kind of the opposite, someone who's cool, calm, collected, someone like Libra, someone who's a little bit detached. This is another intellectual placement. So having Mars and Virgo with descendant in Libra, you want someone who's a little bit of a blend of things, kind of like you are. You want someone who is fiery, confident, warm, fun-loving, but someone who's also refined, analytical, detail-oriented, intellectual, someone intelligent, someone socially intelligent. With descendant in Libra, you really value that social intelligence, that social kind of poise. So you want someone who's a blend of someone who knows how to be direct and honest and strong-willed and true to themselves, but someone who's also diplomatic and, socially graceful as well. So someone, it is kind of a blend. It's kind of a balance, but I think that's really what you're looking for. So yeah, Libra could be very interesting. I think Libra will really enjoy how strong-willed you can be in relationships. That's what Libra is usually looking for. And what else? I think you would enjoy kind of being the leader, and Libra would enjoy, following you and kind of not only being receptive to your energy, but also reciprocating it as well. And yeah, Libra can be a fun-loving sign too. Other air signs might be interesting for you too. So this is true not only because they kind of complete you in a way. Part of this is that you lack air energy. So anyone with a lot of air in their chart will be kind of like literally a breath of fresh air to you, because it's just something different. It's something exotic. They have different strengths and weaknesses than you do. And so you can be very complementary mutually to one another. They can help you to maybe lighten up, not take things so seriously, and you may help them to do the opposite, to, okay, let's have a little bit more feeling here. Let's take things more seriously. These readings, like, I don't know why, but I get runny noses during readings. Like the readings like pull everything out of me, if that makes sense. But yeah, and also air signs, with Mars and Virgo and descendant in Libra, you're wanting someone intellectual, and all the air signs are intellectual. They're very conversational, very mentally oriented. So I think that could be very interesting for you. Oh, and I was gonna say, when you lack an element, we attract it because it's interesting, it's exotic. It can be very passionate as well. So combining descendant in an air sign with a relative lack of air planets, you want that air energy. It's mysterious. It's different from what you are. It kind of completes you. I don't know. It's very passionate and very interesting for you. I will say this: people that have a lot of air in their charts, they're very unique. They're always very different from everyone else because they think a lot. And they tend to be less emotional. You may want someone who's a little bit less emotionally sensitive than you are, if that makes sense. Because you have some major water placements, but none of your compatibility placements are in water, though. You're wanting someone fun-loving and warm, but also analytical and maybe a little bit more detached. So anyway, Libra is definitely a huge sign of compatibility for you. If I had to narrow it down, I'd probably go with Leo and Libra for the top two. And that's not unusual. I would usually go with the signs of the Venus and the descendant. So for you, those are Leo and Libra. But the other air signs may be worth looking at as well. Gemini might be very interesting because they are very intellectual, very mentally oriented, even more so than Libra is. Gemini can sometimes lack social graces or tact. They can be a little tactless. But what they make up for that, though, in their curiosity, their openness, they're very intellectual. They would also relate to you because you have a lot of mutable energy with your Virgo and Pisces luminaries. Gemini is also mutable. Gemini forms a T-square with your sun and moon. So in other words, Gemini will butt heads with you a lot, but you will understand each other, which I think is key here. As long as you are accepting of that little bit of tension, that tension can be fun, with those squares. that Gemini makes with your chart. I don't think Gemini minds the tension all the time, and as long as you don't either, that tension can create, sexual tension that can be passionate. But on the other hand, Gemini may kind of disagree with you a lot, and the key though is that you'll still understand and hopefully respect one another. I really see you understanding Gemini on a very deep level. It's just that you have some major differences as well. So, in other words, just because you understand each other doesn't mean that you agree all the time. That sums up you with Gemini. So that, I think, yeah, Gemini or Libra could be very interesting. Aquarius is a little bit different. Aquarius is fixed air, so it's a little bit more strong-willed than the other air signs. And Aquarius is also, well, I guess it's, well, I was just thinking it's opposite. Most of your personal placements are in Leo and Virgo, so Aquarius is kind of at the other end of the chart from those placements. So it'd be more of an opposites attract kind of dynamic. So I think, I don't know how to put this into words. I think you're wanting someone more kind of fun and strong-willed, but also go with the flow. So Gemini and Libra more come to mind, like someone with those signs in their chart, but then maybe a mix of like some Leo or other fire. I guess Aquarius isn't more strong-willed, but it can be easygoing. I guess it just kind of depends. I don't want to get lost in the nuance here, but yeah, if you have a chart of someone in mind, I could always run it through. You could run it by me. I guess I'm just getting slightly lost because your compatibility makes sense to me, but it's just a little bit more nuanced. You need someone who's a little bit of a blend of different energies. You need someone with a little bit of fire and a little bit of air. I think those two elements are the most important. Maybe earth can be sexy for you as well, but fire and air in particular, I think, are what you're looking for. You're looking for someone fun and warm and confident, but also cool, calm, and intellectual as well. So fire and air. Last element we haven't talked about is water. I can see you relating on a deep level with water signs. I just don't see you being romantically attracted to them at all. None of your compatibility placements are in water signs. So I don't see the allure there. I don't see the attraction. Yes, you do have Pisces moon and Cancer south node. So, on a very deep level, you resonate with water energy. Your past is focused on water signs. But I think where you're going, though, in this lifetime is more kind of away from that. To some extent, it will always be there with you. That heavy emotion, that intuition. I'm not saying you'll lose any of that. I'm just saying I think you're learning to embrace these much different energies in this lifetime. So I think, when it comes to attraction, I don't know. I could see you having like deep and meaningful friendships or maybe family relationships with water signs. I just don't see a romantic attraction there for you. I don't see it as being interesting for you. You already have that energy. I don't think you necessarily need that energy in someone else. You're looking for someone more fun-loving, spontaneous, doesn't take anything too seriously. Water signs are the most emotional. They're a much heavier energy. And really, I think the same would be true for any of them. I think Scorpio would match with you the least in my mind because, Scorpio they can be very analytical, which might be interesting for you. They're interesting, they're provocative, they're deep thinkers, but they're also so deeply emotional, and I just don't see I don't think that's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone more fun-loving, spontaneous. Scorpio really values security and loyalty above all else. They're looking for consistency. I think that would be boring for you. Pisces and Cancer, I kind of feel the same way about for you. I think you would relate to both of them in different ways. Pisces in particular, whenever you are dealing with someone who has major placements where your moon is, there you can easily connect with them on a deep level. You can have a deep connection with them, deep friendship. But again, there's nothing indicating to me a romantic connection with Pisces or Cancer. You could have a friendship which might be part of something more if they've got some other placements skewing things in a different direction. But Pisces or Cancer on their own, I see as being friends or, sibling energy for you. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I see. I hope that wasn't too rambly. Compatibility wise, I would narrow it down to fire and air elements, Leo and Libra in particular. But yeah, let me know what you think. I'm always open to any kind of feedback or questions that you have. I'm pretty confident about this reading and most of my readings in general, but I'm still learning. I get things wrong sometimes. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think, and yeah, thanks for this request. Have a great day.